Welcome back to Deep Blue FPV, and one thing you'll notice straight away is we've gone international again. For the past 2 years, my buddy Ian and I have been planning our trip to Bikini Atoll. This is scheduled for August to September 2026. We're diving with Dirty Dozen, and one of their requirements is that anybody who wants to go inside the wrecks must take their advanced technical wreck course. So this is what we'll be doing for the next couple of videos, and here we are today on a boat operated by Scubaholics in Subic Bay. A really good operation run by Anton and Denise. But before we get in the water, a little bit about the trip over, which was quite interesting to say the least. On the flight out, I sat next to this delightful businesswoman, April, who ended up watching one of my videos. But the welcome when we got to the Philippines was more like this. This is Tropical Storm Ragasa, which ended up being a super typhoon. So we started the course at Vasco's, run by Brian Homan, who I'll tell you about later. There was 3 of us on the course, myself, Jay and Ian. Now, Jay is my instructor for all the tech and CCR courses that Ian and I have done, but for this course he's taking it with us. We had a really experienced and thorough instructor for the course itself, but he asked not to be included in any videos, so I'm just going to refer to him in the future as coach. And what we're diving for the first few days is the wreck of an aeroplane which lies underneath that catamaran in the centre. But before we can do any diving, we have to let Ragasa do its thing, which, as you can see, it does quite spectacularly. And this went on for the whole day, and then on all the way through the night as well. So this is what we were faced with the next morning, and if that viz is not bad enough to start off with, then Coach is going to make it even worse for us when we get in the water. So I didn't wear my FPV cam for this first few dives because we used open circuit. It's only 8 meters deep, and the holes we were crawling through on this plane were really tight indeed. The visibility was 0. If there was any visibility, Coach made it 0, so there was no point in videoing that, but we did 5 hours just going in and out of that plane to learn the techniques we're going to take on to this wreck. So this ship is the El Capitan. Built in 1919, she was originally the SS Meridian. She's 90 metres long, weighs 5,070 tonnes, or displacement 5,070 tonnes. She was bought by the US Navy in 1942, renamed the USS Majaba, and she was a cargo ship. She served at Guadalcanal, taking supplies in and out of the islands there. She was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine HA-11, but she didn't sink, and she was towed to Subic Bay, where she was patched up, and she was apparently returned to her original owners, who didn't really want the ship in this state after she'd been so badly damaged, and eventually she sank in a storm. Now, everything about this wreck makes her an ideal vessel to learn these techniques in. She's not deep, between kind of 8 and 16 metres you'll get inside her. There are large areas which you can swim through. Some of the machinery has already been removed, so it gives you access to these places. And also the whole of Subic Bay is covered in this volcanic silt, which means to say that visibility really can kick up to be 0. So it's a great place to learn how to dive in very poor visibility, and also to try and hone your techniques. So we're going to line into this wreck, basically laying a piece of string which goes into the wreck as far as we can go, and so we can come out of it in the same way. I've got the job of just doing first line in there, so the first thing I need to do is what's called a primary, where we put the string round a fixed object on the outside of the wreck. Then we'll do a secondary tie-off slightly nearer the wreck before we go inside it. This is so we can leave any equipment that we might have to have on decompression outside the wreck. Of course, we don't have any on this training dive, but it's all setting it up for future dives. Now, this dive was an hour and a half long, but I like to keep these videos to around 30 minutes, so I'm going to cut out an awful lot. One of the things that I've cut out already is the fact that I actually tried to get into this wreck via the wrong hole in the first place. But you can see by the red dot on the graph there exactly how far we are into the dive itself at any point. So we're diving as a team of 3, with coach just appearing and disappearing at various points along the dive in order to set us other tasks along the way, which we do or do not know about that are going to happen. To start off with, I'm number 1, which is line man. My job is to get inside the wreck, try and not kick up any silt, and lay a line which the others can follow. At the moment, Jay is number 2. He's captain. His job is to basically ensure that Ian comes in the right kind of manner after him. So he's got to control any signals that I give him back to Ian. Ian is tail end Charlie for this first part of the dive, and his job is to follow the line in and follow probably poor visibility. So right now what I'm doing is I'm looking for tie-off points which are high enough above the silt layer to ensure that we don't kick up too much vis, something which is easy to follow and something which is easy to remove on our way out. I'm diving this using closed circuit rebreather and a dry suit because that's the way that I intend to dive in bikini. The dry suit is basically to protect me against the environment itself. This is pretty sharp stuff inside these wrecks, and in fact what happens very shortly into this wreck is that my dry suit does indeed get sliced open and it becomes a wetsuit, which is very difficult to control my weight because I end up with probably 2 or 3 gallons of water inside my suit sloshing around, which makes the management of my buoyancy even harder. And for anybody who dives a closed circuit rebreather, it is very difficult at shallow depths. We're at 14.9 meters at the moment. To me, a CCR really doesn't start to work properly until 20 meters deep or so. Now, the other thing you'll notice I've done here is to switch on my ultraviolet lights, which are on the side of my helmet. These are really good for diving this kind of wreck because what happens is it really illuminates things like white string and lines. You wait till you see the orange lines. It's fantastic. It's like some neon strip lighting going down the inside of the wreck. But what I do have to be careful with is obviously if I turn around to look at my colleagues on that, I'm firing ultraviolet lights directly at them. It's a lot better than having your big torch lights going at them, which would blind them or so. And some people do say it's really good because you can recognise exactly where I am all the time because of this ultraviolet glow. But again, you can see me here just kind of running the line. There's a certain way to run these lines to make sure that they don't get tangled. I've actually run out of line at this point, so what I'm doing is I'm fixing a clip onto the line, and the clip is actually a directional line as well. So if you notice, the clip points back the way I've come. So what the idea of that is that when we come back to this line, we know that the clip is pointing to the safe place. So if you suddenly pick up that line halfway through, that's the place to go out. So that's my job done now. My role will now be to go rotate to the rear, and the next person, Jay, will take over as linesman. Ian takes over as captain, and I go to the back and follow in the darkness. So there's Ian giving me the signal there. You are now number 3 as he takes over captaincy of the team. So as number 3, my job here really is to stay out of everybody else's way and just keep safe following the line down. I will cut out parts from time to time. I'll leave you just to see that on the red dot, but also I expect to have problems given to me along the way by coach who will interrupt and create issues for us. So we're much further into the wreck now. Ian has stopped at this point to just make sure I don't overrun myself on here, and also just to point out that the line's going in a different direction now. So Jay is crossing over to a different area which he's seen, and as I said, my job is to not be in his way while he's doing all this. And after another 5 minutes of following in third place, I can see that something is changing up in the distance there. Jay's not going anywhere, and I can see by the movement of the torch, these torches are on our left hand, so when people are wrapping lines up, etc., you can tell by the movement of the torch what's going on. And the other thing I can tell you is that Jay is on his way back, so he has then come to the end of his line. He's wrapped that off in the same way that I did. He's now coming back. He's going to take third position. I take over captaincy of the team, and Ian's job now is to attach his line and carry on as linesman out to the next situation we're going to go through, which is to continue on through this wreck. And as Ian completes putting his line on there, then the next job for him to do is to officially pass over the captaincy by basically saying that he is now number 1, I am now number 2, and Jay is number 3. So he's pointing out to me by putting it in the light at the back of his fingers there, showing me that is the signal, and my job is to respond to that by confirming back, which you can just about see my fingers, saying that I accept that he's number 1, I'm number 2, and then I turn around to Jay and indicates to him that he is now number 3, and we carry on, and Jay confirms back to me that he is number 3, and we'll carry on with the dive. So as Ian takes over as linesman, he has a number of duties to perform with that. He's got to keep that line safe. It's got to be as tight as possible so that it doesn't bow from side to side and get snagged on things. He's got to make sure that it doesn't wrap around anything which is going to be sharp enough to cut it. He's got to make sure that it is out the way so it doesn't get tangled with him or any other divers that come along. It's got to also be there to not get in the way of another team which might come in behind and want to lie their own line alongside this one. So he's got a number of areas to do there. He's also looking at all points, looking for new places which would be safe to tie onto and new places to go, because as coach used to say to us on these things, you know, you're not diving a piece of string, you're diving a shipwreck, and the idea is to look around, enjoy the shipwreck itself, and the line is your lifeline. It's going to be how you get out of this wreck. Now, another part of the captain's role in this situation, or anybody who's number 2, is also to help the linesman with illumination. Ian has run quite a long way without being able to find a decent tie-off. He's found a tie-off. It's not a decent one, it's a big one, but he has to make a tie-off at some stage to keep this line straight. So he's decided that that is something to do, and of course it's quite difficult for him to be able to illuminate that with the light on his left hand at the same time. So my job there, as you can see, just shining it onto that tie off in order to get it round. And there is, as I said before, a specific way to make sure that tie off is nice and easy, nice and directional. And again, my job is to just check behind that Jay knows that we're going on. So as Ian now comes to the end of his line, he's run out of line here, so he is now tying it off and pointing it back in the direction that it's come from. So now we've come to the end of the line. We're going to go back the way we came, and Jay was just talking to me there and also illustrating with his fingers to say that I'm going to be now number one, which is mean to say that my job is just to follow that line out and effectively just try and keep the disturbance down as much as possible. Ian will be number two, and then Jay will remove the line. Obviously the last person is the one to remove the line, and we're giving the indications on what to do there.
Where's Ian? Ian's gone. Ian. Okay. Sam's gone too. So that's a drill.
Now, Coach has gone, and what Jay has just said there is Ian's gone too, so it's a drill. However, I didn't see any of that, so I actually thought that Jay said, Ian's gone, it's for real. Which doesn't change anything, it's the same protocol for both scenarios, but it did give me a bit of a concern when I was thinking kind of like, is Ian in there somewhere? The protocol here is that obviously you could try and find him. That's why I'm turning on the strobe there, trying to look around, trying to attract him, his attention if he's around there. But if not, we know what to do. We have to leave a message for him, and we have to then leave a torch so that if he comes and finds the torch, he's at least got some directions of what to do. And the message which I decided to leave on this one was return to surface, because clearly we are actually on the edge of the wreck there, so you wouldn't send a diver back through the wreck where you've been there. You would actually send them to the surface in that situation. If it wasn't that situation, then you would leave a message saying exit the wreck, but obviously you would wait there for as long as possible, but at some stage you would have to leave to ensure that you were safely out, and then your job would be to get out back to hopefully where you've got the deco bottles, and then again you would wait there for the maximum time for the diver to follow those lines out again. So 5 minutes have passed. I've got the note ready on the line there. We're not going to go anywhere for the time being, obviously, because we're on CCR. We could be down here for literally hours. So whatever it was, whether it was a drill or for real, you'd wait there for as long as possible, which is a long time yet. And it doesn't take too long before Ian is then returned to us by Coach, who had obviously dragged him off in order to carry out an exercise for himself. So as the aim is now to retrace our steps back out the way we came, what Jay is doing there is checking gas volumes, making sure that before we go back in the wreck, exactly what Ian's gas is there. We have what's called a turnaround time, which is how far you can get into the wreck and make sure you can get out safely, but not only just yourself safely, but what happens if you have a loss of air situation with another diver and you also need to cater for their needs as well. Now, Coach is clearly not going to let us off that easily, so what's happened here is that Jay has been told that his mask has been lost. So Jay is using a closed circuit rebreather, of which his computer, the near eye retinal display, is in front of his eyes. So if he can't see, then he can't see his computer. So what Jay has done is switched to open circuit to ensure that he is on a known gas supply. If he was to use his CCR without the information of the computer, then he has no way of finding out whether or not his PPO2, his oxygen level, is running out of sync with what he needs it to be, which would be a very dangerous, if not fatal, situation if it was taken to its extreme. So Jay has to change onto open circuit, and he has to move onto his secondary mask. Now, at the same time, you'll see that Jay has got the line in his hand as well, because the other thing is you can't just put down the line and change your mask over. You have to make sure that you're holding onto that line at all points, because if you can't see and then you can't see that line, then as soon as you get away from that line, you have a really potentially dangerous situation that you've got no mask and you don't even know where you are in the wreck. So Jay performed that, and then of course it was my turn to go through the same thing. I did it slightly differently than Jay. I didn't switch to open circuit. I kept my rebreather in. It's because I have a slightly different configuration in as much as I have what's called a HUD, heads-up display, which is a series of flashing lights which come into my right eye, and from those flashing lights I can tell what my PPO2 levels are even without being able to see anything, because the lights are LED lights and it's just the flashing sequence which is going to tell me if everything's safe or not, and then that will allow me to stay on the loop, but I could bail out if I need to. So after all that, we are now making our way back out through the wreck. We're leaving the line in place because we're going to come back, which I'll do in video 2, and we're going to have to do some other skills and some more tests and scenarios put in front of us. But for this point here, we can just exit and have a chance to look and enjoy the wreck as we're going out, and just being reminded there to, you know, film as little as possible. Just try and keep it down because it will kick up the visibility. So we've jumped into Jay's line at the moment, which is really just to demonstrate how well the ultraviolets pick out the orange line. It is basically all you can see as we're coming out the wreck here. And then just because we can, using a software, I'm going to increase the speed of coming out this wreck by 10 times so we can get out and just see the last bits. And Coach wanted to teach us one more skill when we came out, which was how to ascend if you've lost all buoyancy in your BCD or buoyancy compensation device, or your wing or your dry suit or so. And this is how to use your surface marker buoy as a controlled ascent device. So what we're going to do here is take out your SMB, surface marker buoy, and put a small amount of air into it, put it under your stomach or under your legs, and let it just lift you gently out the water. Well, the key thing you've got to do here is remember that as the air expands inside it, you have to release some of that back out again so you don't go up too quickly. I've got a self-inflating SMB, so I've just got to crack that valve open, make sure I don't put too much in there. The other guy's got to breathe a little bit in there, and then you just let it out. And as you can see from the graph on the bottom path line on that, we managed to ascend very gently using this, and then we stop off to do our last bits of deco before we come up. We're not into deco obviously, but you are practicing as if this was a full deco dive. So that just about wraps up the first part of the shipwreck diving penetration part of the course compared to the aeroplane. The second part of this is going back on the same wreck, going back through the lines that we've left in there. There's my chop just going back into the boat, and the second part is far harder than the first part, because the second part we have to crawl through little spaces which were a bit uncomfortable, but I guess it's all part of the course. So I hope you enjoyed this insight into the advanced technical wreck course, and look forward to seeing you next time. Please subscribe, like, any comments, anything you want to ask me, please leave in the appropriate boxes below. But before the video ends, I just wanted to add on this one extra bit. I mentioned earlier about Brian Homan. This is a picture of Brian and myself. This is some of the stuff that you can see in his personal museum at Vasco's, and this stuff comes from the Ming dynasty, the Sung dynasty. It's unbelievable. He's a really great guy, and some of the stuff he has done is just unbelievable. Pieces of 8, rubies, gold, Spanish galleons. This guy is the real deal, and this guy has found them all in his time. Hats off to you, Brian.